So it's Saturday morning and weather's pretty nice here, and what I need to do is go pick up my brother's 69 Nova and bring it back here to the shop. Got some things that we need to do to it to get it ready for the York Street Rod Show, which is just over a month away. So still working on my wife's Nova and so many other projects going on, but gotta fit it all in somehow, some way. So I'll take you along. Gotta take the old Jeep over, then bring the Nova back here and get some work done on it. So I'll set you up so you can ride along. Well, made it over to the garage where we have the 69 Nova stored. So this hasn't run for quite a while, so hopefully it won't give us too much of an issue to get it started up. But some of the projects I want to get done on this, we're taking the bench seat out, and we're going to see if we can fit these Ford seats. I think that's what they're from. We're going to see if we can get those fitted in there somehow. So that way he's got some buckets, and maybe get rid of this headrest so that way they look a little more in place for in this car. I see he's got his washer bottle laying there. We've got a couple other odds and ends we got to take care of on this car. So I guess the first thing to do is to get some more light in here, open it up, and see if we can get this thing started. All right, if you want to blast her away here. Blast her away? No. Fire her up. Pizza. Right front one that's locking up.
No, it's the back one.
It's the back one that's doing it.
Yeah.
I felt it, and that's why I thought I hit it a couple times hard and see what it would do.
One locks up.
Yeah, well, it pulls. Yeah, it pulls hard to the right, but I guess it could be.
The damn thing. It's all over my windshield.
What is it, antifreeze or oil?
Antifreeze.
I thought I smelled antifreeze for a while. Well, I smelled it, and then I kept checking the temp, and it's like, well, we're staying at 200, so it's like, well, we're okay.
Yeah.
The oil pressure was staying up. Yeah, I saw.
She started smoking there.
I saw it. Yeah, I kept watching it. That's why I got out of it a little bit.
It calmed out down.
Yeah, yeah, and then I hit it again to see if I blasted. Was it coming out of the exhaust? All right, I'll get this turned around, get it in the garage. All right, let's take a look here and see.
It's all
wet. Yeah, that is really wet. Where's all that being flung from? Yeah, it looks like it's wet down the cross member too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, where's the antifreeze? Where was that coming from? I definitely smelled antifreeze, and at one point I thought I smelled trans fluid, and I thought, well, that might be power steering. And I don't think that's power steering fluid. It looks like oil to me. It's laying on the front of the freaking water pump. I mean, what the hell?
I know. That's why I can't figure out where the hell's it coming from.
So back on the 69 Nova, got it over here in my shop now, up on the lift. So gone through, checked a number of things that need to be done to get this ready for a car show at the York Street Rod event at the very beginning of June. So let me show you a little bit of the quick list that I wrote here for what we have to do on the car. And I say quick list, it was just scratched down real quick. So I got an alternator. The wiring is just a mess in there, so we want to clean that up. Not that important, but we want to get the washer bottle in there. We finally picked up one up at Carlisle. Shifter install. This currently has a, I can't remember what brand it is that's in there, but it's got different lockouts on it. It's a real pain to mess with. We got a different one, a B&M, so we're going to end up mounting that in. But that other shifter does not fit with the bench seat in the car. So we've got a set of bucket seats we're going to try and retrofit that came out of, we believe, some newer Ford. We found them on Marketplace for 50 bucks. They're nice seat. Front suspension rebuild, we had debated whether we were going to do this right away or not. We decided just to bite the bullet and get all new bushings in the front end. And at the same time, we are going to cut the coils a little bit because the front end still sits way too high. And I'll show you here, I actually have it up on the jack right now, but it is on the suspension, so it's still weighted suspension. You can see the amount of space in that front wheel well. It's just too much. This car still has a rake to it that great for drag racing, but not great for street driving. If you're on a hill and you step on it, gas actually comes out of the cap. It's crazy. So my brother is old school. He likes the car with the back end up high, and we've got air shocks on it, and it still isn't making a difference. So we want to bring that front end down a little bit. So we are going to cut a little bit off the coil. We could buy some new coils that are lowered coils. They're already here. We're going to have them out. We figure, let's go ahead and just trim a little off and see what we can get out of it. Other things, valve covers, the ones that are on here, we have some leakage issues, and he picked up a nice set of chrome Elderbrox that he liked better, so we're going to get those on. The heater core is leaking on this one, which stinks. I had replaced that heater core. It came in damaged. I did a test on it. It seemed good. It leaked. So we have a bypass, so we're not sure if we're going to replace it or if we're just going to do a little better job on the bypass. Brakes, we went through all the brakes. They were acting kind of weird. You'll see that in the video with it pulling really hard. What we wound up doing, we did some testing and we found that the brake hose is collapsed on the driver front, so that one's hanging up, so it's causing some issues. So we ordered a new hose for that. Otherwise, we bled the rest of the system. Everything else seems like it's clear and it's working, so we got to get that front one straightened out. Intake, we've got a lot of oil leakage on the front of this engine, and we think we've diagnosed it to the front seal on the intake, so we're going to order gaskets for that. We're going to end up pulling that. Also, this has a little bit of a tap in the engine that you probably heard at the very beginning of the video. That tap has been there off and on, so I want to check that while we have the valve covers off, if it is just a loose rocker or if we've got collapsed lifter. So while we have the intake off, it's going to be a good time to check all that valve train out. Door sills, these have been missing. We've had some issues trying to find the right one, so we got a different set up at Carlisle, so we're gonna get those on there. The rear quarter cleanup, there has been, I don't know if you can see it from this distance, but there is a little bit of plastic. It's pretty much the only plastic. It's in the body. The body of this car is in great shape. And it looks like it got dented and it cracked. So we're gonna see if we can doctor that up a little bit to take him out to the car show. The front inner fender liners, we put those in, they're repops. They don't fit right. We're gonna elongate some of the bolt holes so we can get those in there. We do have a broken bolt off on the lower fender for the one side, so we wanna see if we can tap that out. And we're missing the emblems on the fenders. We gotta drill the holes, get our Nova emblems on there, as well as the trunk, because it actually has a 68 trunk lid, so the holes are wrong, so we got to fill them in, re-drill for the correct emblem. So that is the list. That's a lot of stuff. There's some things that are absolute priorities. I should probably put some stars with the absolute priorities, but we're going to see if we can tackle all those things over the next 4 weeks. So here's a little closer look at the seats that we have for the Nova. Again, we found these on Marketplace. The buyer, or I should say the seller, didn't know exactly what these had come out of. He apparently bought these for another project and then didn't use them. They're not perfect. I mean, there's a little bit of damage here and there. This is the passenger side seat. It does have side airbags. We believe these are probably Ford. Maybe I'll know a little bit more. Maybe there might be some stampings or something on this when I get into it. But the driver's seat is full power. I'm going to assume all the wires that are on there are probably for the airbag and probably a seat sensor to know if someone's sitting in the seat. So we're going to end up seeing if we have to remove all of this current hardware in order to try and fit some original hardware. Now this is for the 4th gen Nova. This is for bucket seats for 75 to 79 Nova. I figure it should be relatively close to the 3rd gen with some probably light modifications. The car currently is fitted with a bench seat, so it does not have, or I should say, the mounts for putting in normal bucket seats. So I'm going to make something between all of this to fit into the car. Well, to bring you up to date where I'm at, with a little bit of use of the angle grinder, managed to cut all this hardware, and that's got a lot of weight to it. That's pretty crazy. So here you can see I just cut it free, all 4 corners, and now this here are the Nova style seat tracks, and I just laid them on there. Now I still have to take measurements and everything like that, and I'll have to make bracketry on the floor to mount this properly, but not too bad for a fitment. And there's enough room up in here that once I would drill the holes for where it needs to mount, I should be able to put nuts and bolts into that. So it'll be a bolt coming straight through, and then the nut will have to be on the back side. Plenty of room up in the front here to do the exact same. So I think it's going to work out pretty good. Kind of hidden right up under the edge of the seat. Took a lot of weight out of this by taking that stuff off and really lowered it quite a bit. So I think I might be able to make these fit by the looks of it so far. But I'm not going to know for 100% until I'm able to get the bench seat out of this car and start doing some fitment. So it's next day. Next step is going to be getting the bench seat out of the Nova. Now, I apologize. It's going to be a little bit noisy in this video. It is raining pretty good out there, so you can probably hear that pretty loud. But I'm going to do the best I can here today and show you getting the bench seat out of this car. Is not original to this car. I actually got this out of the junkyard, and I may post a link to the video of me getting this out of the junkyard and putting this bench seat in. When we got this car, it had a set of plastic racing seats in it, which were hard to get in and out of, completely uncomfortable, and just unreasonable to have in a street car. So those were pulled and sold a while back. The bench seat worked for now, but my brother really wanted to have bucket seats. So that's what we're working on here. So let's see if we can get this thing done. Right, so bench seat, pretty simple. 4 bolts total holding it in, front, rear. Simply just use your adjuster so you can move the seat forward or back to gain access in to get to the bolts. Let's just do a quick test. of the seat with no hardware under it, and just see what we get. And it's sitting crooked because the way the floor pan is shaped, so that's not surprised. So that side's gonna have to be put up. Well, that wouldn't be too bad. I don't know about that headrest, if he's gonna want that or not. Then we gotta get a couple blocks of wood and sit under here and just do some test fitting and see for height to start with that first. Not an exact science here. We're just playing around. And I'm gonna put a 2x4 on this side and see how that makes things. Not gonna be the best, but let's just try to get an idea. Actually, that height is not bad. That feels pretty good. Let's take a look at that with the door closed. That doesn't look too bad like that. I don't know how well you can see it. It's probably pretty dark in there. That really doesn't look bad. Making a little more progress on this. I got a block of wood sitting back there to hold it, but I think I got the height about right. I do have one of the seat tracks bolted on, but it's not quite touching the floor yet. So I'm gonna actually pull this out. I'll show you what I've got. So I think you can see what I've got. This is one of these tracks that we got off of a 4th gen Nova. It's pretty darn close. It just rubs here, which I'm not too concerned about. We can bend this and make it fit. There is space right in here. I don't have it bolted up in the front yet, but I do have it bolted in the back. I used the factory hole from the Ford. So I'm going to do the same thing with the other side and bolt it on. Right now I just have a piece of wood under it to try and get the height that I need. So basically I want to try and get this sitting where I want it, and then I'm going to build some sort of a mount on the floor and then have studs sticking up from that. So that way this will sit over top of the studs and you just use nuts to hold it down. Because I do not want to drill holes to the floor and try to bolt it that way. I want actual physical mounts on top of the floor. That way I can control the height up and down. Now the bolts I'm using are just some ones I found in my toolbox. But I am using the nuts that came from this seat. They actually fit on there, surprisingly. So at this point, we have a front floor mount and a rear floor mount together. Have bolts going through, welded fast. This is bolted to all the framework. I have the metal on the floor cleaned. So next thing I'm going to do is spot weld these in place, unbolt the seat, and then do finish welds. Made quite a bit of progress here. I apologize, I haven't been filming as much as I should have. But you can see all the carpet sitting back in place. You can see the studs sticking up out of the floor. That is where the brackets that I did have on the seats, that's where they're mounted at. So you can see them up in there. But I got one in the back, one in the front. Got the same thing on the opposite sides. Got the replacement shifter in place, so pretty happy with the way that's coming out. The cover was busted, so I just had to put a washer on there, but I think that's going to work out pretty good. So the next thing I'm going to end up doing is putting the driver's seat in here. And then I got to put the sill plate on the passenger side and then put the passenger side seat in. And finish up that little bit with the shifter. And I think we'll have the interior pretty well cleaned up and done. So it's been a few days since I started the series on the 69 Nova, getting some things done. As I showed you, the bucket seats are now in the car, along with the replacement shifter, so pretty happy with the way all that came out. Got the lower dash painted, that looks really good, so pretty happy overall with things. It's got a nice clean look to it now from what it was before. Got sill plates in, so it's a little bit dark in here. Yeah, way too dark in here. But again, we're pretty happy with the way everything came out. Those Ford seats don't look too bad in the Chevy. They still need to be wiped down and cleaned up a little bit. We do want to do the rear package tray, and what we're thinking about doing is actually just using the bench seat cover, the slip over cover, we're thinking about maybe using that to cover up that back deck. So we'll see how that comes along. Some of the other things that I've done, I can show you a still shot of under the hood. I'll show you what it looks like now. So we cleaned up that alternator wire. It had been coming straight across the engine. So we ran that back, added more wire to it, loomed it all together, and brought it into the backside by running it down the side of the engine. So a lot happier with the way that looks. Also got his washer bottle in place. You know, sometimes just the little things. This engine compartment just needed that finished look. And we picked this up. He found that on a tarp up at Carlisle. Paid $2 for the bottle, and nothing wrong with it. Looks just perfect. And the holder I found on a Caprice up in the junkyard. I paid $1 for that. So pretty cheap fix, but makes it look a lot better in here. So at this point, I think I'm going to knock a couple things off the list. So we'll take a look at that. Looking at our list, we got the alternator wire rebuilt done. Washer bottle is in. The shifter's installed. Bucket seats are installed. The sills are in. So rear quarter cleanup. There is a small crack down in here. So if we get to it, we're going to try and get that done. Front suspension rebuild, that's going to be the big one. We're probably going to be handling that next. Valve covers, the heater core. We're not going to do the whole heater core, but the repair that we have bypassing it is a little shaky, so we're going to fix that up a little bit better. Brakes going to be done when we do the front suspension rebuild. Talking about the valve covers, we got an oil leak on the front of the engine right at the intake, so we're going to be pulling that off. Plus, we got a little bit of a valve tap that's going on, so we're hoping by pulling all that top end off, or I should say the intake and the valve covers, that we'll be able to diagnose which rocker is making noise, and hopefully it just needs an adjustment that we don't have a collapsed lifter. But if we do, I've got some new old stock lifters sitting in my cabinet over there, so if we got to swap one out, we should be able to do that. Nonetheless, that's where we're at. So if you like the series on the 69 Nova, make sure we give it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, I'd appreciate if you hit the subscribe button. Again, the next video on the 69 Nova, we're going to be probably doing the front suspension rebuild to get this ready for the York Street Rod Nats. I'm probably not going to go through the whole detail of doing the front end rebuild as far as like A-arm bushings and ball joints, etc. If you want to see that, I do have a video up on the Pontiac Ventura sitting over there, which basically is the same thing, except that is a disc brake front end car, where this one here is drum brake. But if you want to see how to do that, I do have a video up when I did the work on the Pontiac. Again, I want to say to everyone, thank you for watching. Appreciate every one of you. And as always, thanks for watching.